Corrupt cop mocks defendant in court, but shocking twist reveals she's a DEA agent undercover. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Every sound felt amplified. The shuffling of papers, the creak of wood, the faint echo of whispered conversations. A glaring light overhead seemed to spotlight Officer Sarah Hunter, the most feared and revered figure in law enforcement. She towered in her crisp uniform, the badge glinting like a silver knife. Her presence demanded respect. But today, it echoed with dread. Really? She scoffed, a smirk curling her lips as she leaned over the table to glare at the trembling defendant. Marco Ruiz, a skinny man with sunken eyes, looked like a deer caught in headlights. You thought you could outsmart the law? You're nothing but a cheap dealer. The words sliced through the air, and the audience gasped. It wasn't just a shock, it felt like a punch to the gut. People murmured in disbelief. How could someone so powerful enjoy humiliating another human being so openly? The courtroom was alive with whispers and the rustling of jackets. The air thick with uncertainty. Sarah's mocking tone rang in their ears, but her heart thudded in her chest. A constant reminder of her secret life. Beneath her tough exterior lay a complex web of deceit. What danced in the shadows of her heart was a past riddled with addiction and despair. She wasn't just a cop, she was a soul, caught in a storm. Her mission to infiltrate the very drug syndicate she mocked took its toll, digging nails into her psyche. Each word she flung felt like daggers, and the guilt of her deception clawed at her with relentless ferocity. She had to maintain her cover, but at what cost? As Sarah stared at Marco, something more than mere criminality flickered in his eyes. When he spoke, the room fell silent. You don't even know me, do you, Sarah? We were just kids. Remember? Her breath hitched. That name, that moment, long buried, emerged to taunt her, unraveling the carefully woven threads of her secret identity. Memories flashed like old film, shadows of a life she had fought so hard to escape. The sense of forgotten places, the faces of friends lost to addiction. They flooded her mind. She had become the monster she feared, and here was a ghost from her past, pulling her back into the darkness. Gasps echoed through the gallery. This was not just a courtroom anymore, it was a battlefield of conflicting truths. The underlying tension thickened like smoke, and she could feel the walls closing in. You think you're better than me? Marco continued, voice shaking. You're just as lost, hiding behind that badge. Her heart raced. She felt exposed, stripped bare, and in that moment, the weight of her mission collided with the longing for redemption. The stakes were rising dangerously high as the drug syndicate lurked just outside, watching and waiting. Without warning, a new voice erupted from the back. "She's in too deep," cried a worn-out figure, eyes wild. "Everyone's corrupt. We know what you're doing, Sarah." Everything spun. Friends, foes, and secrets intertwined, leaving no clear path ahead. Maybe the truth hurt more than lies. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without any notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're here, hit that powerful like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The voice from the back sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Gasps erupted like firecrackers as eyes darted between Sarah and Marco. You're in too deep. It echoed off the walls, a desperate plea from a man crushed under the weight of truth and lies. Sarah's heart raced as she locked eyes with Marco. "You don't know what you're talking about," she shot back, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The courtroom buzzed louder, a tempest of whispers, each soul hungry for more dirt, more truth. Suddenly, the old man from the back lunged forward, stumbling through the chaos. "You think you're a hero? You think you can change anything? You're just another cog in the system." He was wild, his hair matted, clothes fraying at the edges, like an old war veteran fresh from the battlefield. He pointed a shaky finger at Sarah. "You have no idea who's really pulling the strings." Silence fell like a heavy... But before he could answer, there was a loud crash at the back of the courtroom. The door flew open, and in walked two armed figures, DE agents in tactical gear. The crowd gasped again, confusion mingling with the smell of fear. "Everyone get down!" one yelled, voice booming and fierce. "Sarah, get down!" Marco shouted, but it was too late. In an instant, chaos erupted. The agents charged forward, guns drawn, the tension so thick it could be sliced with a knife. People screamed, scrambling, ducking for cover as the agents moved in. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, her body frozen. This was not how it was supposed to go. Not here, not now. "Sarah Hunter, you're under arrest," one of the agents shouted, his eyes fierce, not a hint of hesitation in his voice. She felt the words like a punch to the gut. The world spun. Her mind raced. The mission to bring down the syndicate was crumbling like sand slipping through her fingers. Who was she now? "Wait, you don't understand. But the agent stepped closer, his grip firm as he reached for her wrist. "You're not who you think you are. And it's time to face the truth." In that moment, the old man's words echoed in her head. The truth. The whole truth. Suddenly, every interaction, every secret she held began to unravel, revealing ties she hadn't even suspected. Everything blurred. The room, the voices, the accusations swirling around her. As she looked at Marco, she saw something change in his demeanor. He wasn't just a dealer. Perhaps he was a pawn, just like her. With a force that shook the hall, a realization hit her, a truth that felt unreal. What if the dirty deals ran deeper than she thought? Ha 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 ha! Who were the real players in this twisted game? Time slowed, and in that heartbeat of uncertainty, the screams and cries faded into haunting whispers. The ground beneath her crumbled, and with a final tug on her wrist, the agent pulled her forward into the unknown. What lay ahead? And how many more secrets would be dragged into the light? Time seemed to stretch as Sarah stared at the agent, her heart pounding. The chaos swirling around her faded into a dull roar. She felt trapped, caught between two worlds. Her mask of the law and the shadows of her past creeping in on her. "Get her out of here!" the lead DEA agent shouted. His eyes were fierce, cutting through the haze. But then, something shifted in the atmosphere. A scream shattered the tension, piercing through the courtroom like a knife. "Look out!" someone yelled. Before Sarah could turn, a deafening explosion rocked the building. The world exploded in a riot of sound and confusion. The ground shook violently beneath them, and the air thickened with smoke and the acrid smell of burning debris. Instinct kicked in. She ducked as debris fell from the ceiling, sharp bits of reality slicing through the chaos. "What the hell is happening?" Marco screamed, his face a mask of terror. But Sarah didn't respond. Her mind raced as the agent beside her cursed and fell backward, clutching his leg. The shouts of panic blended into a chaotic symphony. A man in the gallery surged forward, his jacket flapping like a wounded bird. "This isn't just an arrest. They're coming for all of us." His eyes were wild, filled with something deeper than just fear. "Who?" Sarah barked, struggling to pull the DEA agent back up. But he fell unconscious, racked by pain. "Who's coming?" She felt the walls closing in again. Then a figure emerged from the haze, stepping unscathed through the smoke. It was a slender woman, her features familiar, yet twisted by the cruelty of time. "Sarah, it's time to choose a side," she said, voice calm amidst the storm. Sarah's heart dropped. "Mia?" The name escaped her lips like a whisper of forgotten dreams. The girl she once knew, lost to addiction, now stood as a spectre of betrayal. "I didn't want to drag you back into this." Mia's eyes were filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. "But you need to see this isn't about the drugs. It's a setup. They want you out of the way." "What?" Sarah's head spun. "What do you mean?" "Remember the coin?" Mia pressed, stepping closer, urgency in her voice. "It's all connected. You were the last piece they needed to finish this. You don't know what they've planned." Before Sarah could process, there was another series of blasts outside, muffled and distant, yet terrifying. "They're here!" someone cried. All eyes turned toward the exit, and the whispers morphed into full-blown panic. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. "Mia, what are you talking about? Who are they?" But Mia didn't have time to answer. Just then, the old man from the back emerged from the smoke, his face drenched in shadows, eyes wide with a haunting dread. "It's all a game, a sick game. You're too late to escape." Then a bombshell dropped. "They're planning to frame you, Sarah. You'll be the scapegoat for everything. The cargo, the deals. You were always meant to be the fall guy." Sarah's breath hitched. The ground beneath her threatened to collapse entirely. A million thoughts collided in her mind. She was caught in a storm of guilt, betrayal, and newfound resolve. Suddenly, there was movement at the periphery. Figures clad in tactical gear, moving through the chaos. One approached with purpose. Sarah's heart dropped as she recognized the emblem on their uniform. The same emblem she wore. "Agent Hunter!" one called out. "You need to come with us, now!" Time halted. Every heartbeat pounded hard against her chest. Who was she now? What was the truth? Her world was unraveling, and she felt herself standing on a precipice. "Choose," Mia whispered, urgency building. "Will you follow your past, or break the cycle?" As the smoke thickened and sirens blared in the distance, Sarah was left staring into the abyss, every choice a thread in an unsolvable riddle. Who could she trust when nothing was as it seemed? Her mind raced, uncertain of what lay ahead, and she was desperate to find out what fate awaited her in the storm. Time seemed to stretch as Sarah stared at the agent, her heart pounding. The chaos swirling around her faded into a dull roar. She felt trapped, caught between two worlds, her mask of the law and the shadows of her past creeping in on her. "Get her out of here!" The lead DEA agent shouted. His eyes were fierce, cutting through the haze. But then, something shifted in the atmosphere. A scream shattered the tension, piercing the courtroom. "Look out!" someone yelled. Before Sarah could turn, a deafening explosion rocked the building. The world exploded in a riot of sound and confusion. The ground shook violently beneath them. A shouting and screaming erupted in chaos. Sarah ducked instinctively as debris crashed down, sharp bits of reality slicing through the panic. "What the hell is happening?" Marco screamed, his face drawn tight with terror. But Sarah didn't respond. Her mind raced as the agent beside her stumbled backward, clutching his leg. The shouts of panic blended into a chaotic symphony. A man in the gallery surged forward, his jacket flapping like a wounded bird. "This isn't just an arrest. They're coming for all of us!" His eyes were wild, filled with something deeper than just fear. "Who?" Sarah barked, struggling to steady the agent, but he was down, writhing in pain. "Who's coming?" The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing the air out of her lungs. Then, through the smoke, the old man from the back staggered into view, eyes wide, face a mask of horror. "It's all a game, a sick game. You're too late to escape." Suddenly, a chilling realization gripped Sarah. "No, this can't be happening." She was trapped in a nightmare, threads of her reality fraying with each passing second. Before she could comprehend what he was saying, he shouted, "They're planning to frame you, Sarah! You'll be the scapegoat for everything. They want you out of the way." Her breath hitched, cold panic washed over her. The ground beneath her seemed to collapse. "No, I'm supposed to expose them. They need me." But just then, the figure stepped forward through the haze. It was Mia, stepping out of the smoke like a wraith from the past. "Sarah, you need to trust me. It's bigger than both of us." "Trust you?" Sarah shot back, feeling betrayal sting her eyes. "You're the one who vanished, who left me behind. Please, listen." Mia stepped closer, urgency ablaze in her expression. "It's not just about drugs. They have someone on the inside, someone you never suspected." Before Sarah could respond, the crowd surged, shifting like a tide. The courtroom was a mix of chaos and confusion. Shattering glass filled the air. And just like that, an overwhelming noise blasted through the courthouse. Sirens screamed out, echoing like angry banshees. A floodlight flickered overhead, illuminating something ominous. A figure emerged through the smoke, their face hidden beneath a mask. Sarah's heart stopped. It couldn't be. No. Yes, Sarah. The figure said, voice clear and chilling, "It's me." As the smoke cleared, the identity became horrifyingly apparent. It was her father. He had been undercover this entire time, ensnared in a web of lies. Everything crashed around her. You? The word was barely a whisper. I had to protect you. His eyes flickered with something too complicated to name. They were going to use you against me. I couldn't let that happen. The revelation tightened around Sarah's chest like a vice. Protect me? You've been lying all my life! The anger simmered beneath her fear. As a new chaos erupted, she felt the connections of her world unravel. Allies turned to foes, and here stood the man she thought she knew, cloaked in shadows. The courtroom fell into unsettling silence, as the implications settled heavy. Mia reached for Sarah's hand, but she flinched away, still reeling. What does this mean? Panic clawed at her throat. What's the truth? Suddenly the lights flickered, and reality felt like it was spiraling. Sarah was left staring into the abyss, caught between anger, fear, and an overpowering need to know what lay next in this twisted game. Sarah stood frozen. Her father's revelation buzzed in her ears. An undercover agent! Suddenly, she felt lost in a maze of deception. "You've been lying all my life!" she yelled, heart racing. Anger surged, mixing with confusion and betrayal. Was anything real? The chaos around them heightened with every second. Loud shouts mixed with muffled cries as people scrambled to escape the destruction. The old man's words looped in Sarah's mind. He said they were playing a game, and she was the piece they moved about the board. "Sarah, please, just listen," her father implored, desperation in his eyes. Panic clawed at her chest, suffocating her. "What do you want from me?" she demanded. "Protection," he insisted. "This isn't just about arrests and battles. There's a traitor among us." Mia stepped closer, her expression earnest, eyes mirroring Sarah's turmoil. "Sarah, he's right. You have to trust someone," she urged. But Sarah felt walls tightening around her. "I don't know who to trust," she shot back, her voice cracking. Then the tension shattered again. Another explosion echoed from outside, shaking the ground beneath them. A deafening roar filled the courtroom, drowning out fragments of panic. "Get down!" someone yelled. Time stretched as the crowd erupted into chaos. Scrambling bodies collided like waves crashing against a rock. In the midst of it all, Sarah felt something shift in the air. The hairs on her neck prickled. A figure pushed through the smoke, eyes steely and intense. It was the lead DEA agent, his face grim and determined. "Agent Hunter!" he shouted, urgency thick in his voice. "The syndicate just activated their plan. We're running out of time." "What do you mean?" Sarah gasped, her pulse hammering. "Your father, he's not just an agent. He's the one they're using to bring you in." The words hung heavy in the air, and a chill washed over her. "What?" She stumbled back, dread sinking deep. Everything she thought she knew slipped like sand. But before she could process, the darkness around them intensified. A shadow flickered, a dark shape darting past, racing towards the exit. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. No! Stop! It was Marco. He sprinted for the door, desperation etched across his face. "They're coming for me too!" he cried. But the urgency wasn't just for himself. In a heartbeat, the atmosphere exploded again. Steve, another agent, issued a warning. "He knows too much." "No!" Sarah shouted, lunging. But it was too late. A series of gunshots tore through the air, each bang striking like lightning. Marco fell, hitting the ground hard, and silence enveloped the room. Time came to a halt. Sarah's heart raced wildly. "Marco!" she cried as she rushed to him. But the shock had rooted her to the spot. Was he... "Not your fault," he gasped, blood seeping from a wound. "They're using you. Don't let them win." Panic gripped Sarah harder now. Everything twisted. The blurred line between friend and foe, fear and resolve. Could she trust her father? Would Mia's words hold true? As sirens wailed in the distance, revealing shadows lurking outside, Sarah felt the walls closing in. "What have I become?" she whispered, voice thick with helplessness. "Choose your side before it's too late." Marco's voice trembled, eyes pleading. The weight of the choice hung heavy. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, with her father's revelation buzzed in her ears, an undercover agent? Suddenly, she felt lost in a maze of deception. "You've been lying all my life," she yelled, heart racing. Anger surged, mixing with confusion and betrayal. Was anything real? The chaos around them heightened with every second. Loud shouts mixed with muffled cries as people scrambled to escape the destruction. The old man's words looped in Sarah's mind. He said they were playing a game, and she was the piece they moved about the board. "Sarah, please just listen," her father implored, desperation in his eyes. Panic clawed at her chest, suffocating her. "What do you want from me?" she demanded. "Protection," he insisted. "This isn't just about arrests and battles. There's a traitor among us." Mia stepped closer, her expression earnest, eyes mirroring Sarah's turmoil. "Sarah, he's right. You have to trust someone," she urged. But Sarah felt walls tightening around her. "I don't know who to trust," she shot back, her voice cracking. Then the tension shattered again. Another explosion echoed from outside, shaking the ground beneath them. A deafening roar filled the courtroom, drowning out fragments of panic. "Get down!" someone yelled. Time stretched as the crowd erupted into chaos. Scrambling bodies collided like waves crashing against a rock. In the midst of it all, Sarah felt something shift in the air. The hairs on her neck prickled. A figure pushed through the smoke, eyes steely and intense. It was the lead DEA agent, his face grim and determined. "Agent Hunter!" he shouted, urgency thick in his voice. "The syndicate just activated their plan. We're running out of time." "What do you mean?" Sarah gasped, her pulse hammering. "Your father. He's not just an agent. He's the one they're using to bring you in." The words hung heavy in the air, and a chill washed over her. "What?" She stumbled back, dread sinking deep. Everything she thought she knew slipped like sand. But before she could process, the darkness around them intensified. A shadow flickered, a dark shape darting past, racing towards the exit. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "No, stop!" It was Marco. He sprinted for the door, desperation etched across his face. "They're coming for me too!" he cried. But the urgency wasn't just for himself. In a heartbeat, the atmosphere exploded again. Steve, another agent, issued a warning. "He knows too much." "No!" Sarah shouted, lunging. But it was too late. A series of gunshots tore through the air, each band striking like lightning. Marco fell, hitting the ground hard, and silence enveloped the room. Time came to a halt. Sarah's heart raced wildly. "Marco!" she cried as she rushed to him. But the shock had rooted her to the spot. "Was he?" "Not your fault," he gasped, blood seeping from a wound. "They're using you. Don't let them win." Panic gripped Sarah harder now. Everything twisted. The blurred line between friend and foe, fear and resolve. Could she trust her father? Would Mia's words hold true? As sirens wailed in the distance, revealing shadows lurking outside, Sarah felt the walls closing in. "What have I become?" she whispered, voice thick with helplessness. "Choose your side before it's too late." Marco's voice trembled, eyes pleading. The weight of the choice hung heavy. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, with chaos swirling and futures crumbling, Sarah stood at a crossroads. Then the ground trembled beneath their feet again. But this time it was different. It wasn't just an explosion. It felt deeper, darker. A pulsing wave of energy surged through the room. Suddenly, the air thickened with a menacing pressure. Without warning, the ceiling above them cracked, letting in a blinding light. The brightness engulfed everything for a split second. And in that moment, Sarah's vision changed. She saw flashes of her own past, scenes of her childhood, fragments of sorrow, and fleeting moments of joy. But lurking behind every memory was a figure in a dark coat, smiling sinisterly. And as she blinked, grasping at what she had... "Who are you?" Sarah gasped, disbelief rushing through her. "I'm the one pulling the strings, Sarah," he said, body oozing into the shadows. "And you've always been my favourite piece on the board." Cole's terror coursed through her. What was happening? This wasn't how the story was supposed to unfold. As flashes of light crackled around her, a realization settled in her bones. This wasn't just about drugs or betrayal. It was a game, and she was trapped in a web meant to ensnare her. "Wake up!" Marco shouted, but his words faded as the shadows crept closer, wrapping around her like a thick fog. In that disorienting chaos, Sarah faced the truth. Her world was a layer of deception, and the real battle was just beginning. Would she be able to fight her way out? Or had she already lost the game? As the figure from Sarah's vision stepped into the blinding light, a wave of dread washed over her. The echo of his taunting laugh made her skin crawl. "Did you really think you could escape?" He sneered again, his voice wrapping around her like barbed wire. "Who are you?" Sarah gasped, feeling the walls of her reality shifting beneath her feet. Panic clawed at her chest, tightening like a vice. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, a sudden flash of light blinded everyone in the room, making them instinctively shield their eyes. For a moment, It felt like time had come to a standstill. The air was stale, filled with tension, and then, boom! The sound resonated through the courtroom, and the roof cracked like a fragile shell. A hulking shadow surged into the light, shoving past the crowd with a violent force. "Everyone get down!" The deep voice roared, and action exploded in a chaotic frenzy. Sarah's heart slammed in her chest. Amid the chaos, she caught a glimpse of a familiar face, a face she thought she'd never see again. "Jake?" she yelled, disbelief choking her voice. But this wasn't the same Jake she once knew. "No, Sarah, run!" he shouted, eyes wild with fear. Then he darted towards her. But before he could reach her, an unmarked vehicle screeched to a halt just outside, tires screeching like a banshee. The door flew open, and two more figures emerged, guns poised, moving with chilling precision. "Get him!" shouted one of the agents, pointing at Jake. "No! Stop!" Sarah screamed, adrenaline surging. "He's—" But the words were swallowed as chaos erupted around her. A shot rang out, shattering the air as Jake collapsed to the floor, clutching his leg, his face twisted in pain. "Jake!" The word tore from her throat like a wild animal. Time slowed as she rushed towards him, but confusion swirled. What was he doing here? Why were the agents after him? "Sarah," he rasped between gritted teeth, pain etched into his features. But before he could finish, the dark figure lurking behind her spoke. "Look at what you've wrought, Sarah," he said smoothly, voice dripping with satisfaction. "Your past is catching up with you, isn't it?" Everything spun, and suddenly the courtroom wasn't just collapsing around her. It was a maelstrom of lies, fear, and buried truths. The air felt electric, filled with a sickening tension. "Stop!" she cried, feeling her breath hitch. Every pair of eyes was on her now, murmurs ricocheting through the crowd like bullets. "You don't know him!" But Jake coughed, blood speckling his lips. "I do. I've always known." The words hung in the air, thick with implications. "Sarah," he whispered, "someone set this up. I know who." "What?" Panic flared in her chest. The world blinked, and another layer of understanding began to peel away. The puppet strings were becoming visible. Before she could process the enormity of what he said, a sudden roar filled the air, drowning out the shocked gasps of the gallery. Another explosion, this one closer, rattled her bones, scattering dust and debris like falling leaves. The courtroom shook, and Sarah's knees buckled. Everything, the messages, the people in her life, twisted around her. The lead DEA agent's voice pierced through the cacophony. "Get all of them out! We can't hold this line much longer!" But why? Why were they running? In a daze, she turned back to Jake. "What do you mean?" "Sarah, the syndicate, there's a traitor." His voice was strained. "And it's someone you trust." In that moment, a horrifying realization gripped her. Everything had been a facade. The law, her father, even Mia. "Oh?" she asked, trembling, her heart pounding wildly. A glimmer of recognition crossed his face, the shadows flickering in his eyes. He opened his mouth, but before he could say more, a figure pushed through the chaos, the shadows swallowing the last of his words. And the world tilted again as the lights flickered and the dust settled. Time's running out, Sarah. The dark figure that had haunted her said, "Make your choice." The ground beneath her feet shook again, resonating with a new sense of urgency. Who could she trust? What was the truth? With all that she loved at stake, the walls were closing in, suffocating her. As reality crashed down around her, she felt the darkness spreading like ink, threatening to consume her whole. The ground beneath her feet shook again, pushing Sarah deeper into the chaos. The commanding voice of the dark figure echoed all around. Make your choice. He was a ghost from the past and a weight in her present. The embodiment of every secret, every betrayal. "Who can I trust?" she whispered, fear clutching her throat like a vice. The crowd surged, confusion swirling like a storm, cries and shouts mixing into a deafening roar. Each new explosion of sound heightened the chaos around her, and all Sarah wanted was to break free. But her legs felt heavy, anchored to the ground by the weight of too many revelations. "Sarah!" Jake croaked out, his voice strained. "They'll use you." The urgency in his tone snapped her attention back to him. But the vision of the dark figure loomed large in her mind, his chilling smile pressing against her thoughts. Suddenly, the courtroom light flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat. Just as quickly, the emergency lights kicked in, casting an eerie glow amid the smoke. The buzz of chaos faded momentarily. Everyone held their breath, all eyes glued to Sarah. And the "Everyone get out!" the intruder shouted, panic rippling through the crowd. But Sarah's heart sank. She recognized the figure's silhouette. "No, not him!" she screamed, terror flooding her veins. It was her brother Liam. The last time she'd seen him, he had been in recovery, trying to claw his way back from the darkness. He was in too deep. She could see it in his wild eyes, the shadows creeping across his face. "Liam, what are you doing here?" she demanded, stepping forward, dread curling in her stomach. His gaze locked onto hers, vulnerable yet desperate. "I'm here to save you, Sarah!" he shouted above the din, his voice filled with urgency. "But they've twisted everything. You have to believe me." In a moment of confusion, Sarah couldn't grasp his words. "Twisted what? Who are you working for?" The faces around her shifted anxiously. Whispers began circulating, each one filled with uncertainty and fear for their own safety. "Don't trust them," Liam implored, waving his arms to gesture at the agents. "They're not who they say they are." That's when everything went silent. A sudden stillness washed over the courtroom, and for a moment, time froze. It was a heavy silence, suffused with tension. The lead DEA agent, previously a figure of authority, now stood still, eyes wide in disbelief. "You shouldn't be here, Liam," he said slowly, like he was trying to comprehend a great truth. "You're supposed to be locked up." The revelation rippled through the crowd. Gasps echoed as people turned to each other, whispers rising in volume. "What do you mean? What's going on?" Sarah felt her heart racing again, confusion and disbelief swirling together. "Liam," the agent started, but the crowd's fear escalated, bodies shifting as they unconsciously pressed closer together. Each person sensed the truth unraveling. "No, Sarah, listen!" Liam shouted, voice quaking with emotion. "They set me up. I was their pawn to get to you. I'm not the one who betrayed you. A myriad of emotions twisted in Sarah's chest. Fear, anger, betrayal, hope. But there was one thought that shot like lightning through her mind. What if everything was a setup? What if she, the loyal agent, was just a piece in someone else's twisted game? And in that breath of revelation, a wave of realization crashed over her. Everything she believed. Every relationship she trusted, it all flipped upside down. Oh my God! The words fell flat, like stones thrown into water, rippling outwards to touch everyone in the room. The truth was more twisted than she could imagine. In that charged moment, a scream erupted from the back of the court. The gallery turned to find the source of terror, and a figure stood at the door, a woman with a familiar face, but years of hard living etched deep lines across her. "Mia!" Sarah gasped, feeling the ground beneath her crumble. "What are you doing here?" Mia held a gun, and the world tilted again. Eyes darted. The crowd froze in shock. "Too late, Sarah!" Mia yelled, her voice raw with desperation. "You're just like the rest. All I wanted was to save you." And with that, everything fell apart. All the alliances shattered. Sarah stood at the epicenter of chaos, drowning in a whirlpool of lies and truth, fighting for breath in a storm of uncertainty. As the pieces fell into place, Sarah had to make a choice. Would she stand or run? And how could she trust when she found herself surrounded by shadows? The room was filled with tension. Sarah's heart raced as her eyes locked onto Mia. Gun raised, voice trembling. "You're just like the rest! All I wanted was to save you!" Ha 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 ha! The gasps in the crowd echoed like the wind howling through an empty town. And Sarah felt a cold sweat forming on her brow. "Save me," she repeated, the word tasting bitter on her tongue. "You never cared about me! You disappeared!" Ha 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 ha! Mia's eyes flared, filled with desperation. "I tried to protect you, Sarah. You don't see the bigger picture." Before Mia could finish, there was a sudden commotion from the back of the courtroom. A new figure emerged from the smoke. A man in a suited figure, calm amid the chaos. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She recognized him instantly. James! The name slipped from her lips like a gasp. James, her former mentor and the best agent in the DEA. No, it couldn't be. What was he doing here? "Sarah, it's time," he said, voice steady, eyes scanning the room. "You're in grave danger." "But you," she stammered, still grappling with the shock of seeing him. "You were supposed to be on my side." He stepped forward, urgency in his gaze. "I've been trying to find you. They're coming for you! The syndicate is ready to make their move." "This isn't just a courtroom, it's a trap!" A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Everything spun. The very ground felt unstable, like a house of cards ready to collapse. "What do you mean? Who's behind this?" "Your brother," James hesitated, the words heavy in the air. "He's not just a pawn. He's the key to understanding it all." Liam's face twisted with shock, and he shouted back, "No! You don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, I do," James replied, his voice unwavering. "You've been manipulated from the start, Liam. You have no idea how deep it goes. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, illuminating a shock of chaos and fear. Then, without warning, the front door of the courtroom crashed open hard. The entrance burst forth, revealing a squad of heavily armed officers storming in. "Everyone on the ground!" they shouted, their voices sharp and commanding. Sarah's heart dropped. They were supposed to be there to protect her, but something felt off. "Sarah!" Jake called from the floor, struggling to pull himself up. "Run! Get out of here!" "Why?" she yelled back, confusion bubbling within her. "What's happening?" Then, a loud crack reverberated through the room. A shot fired, and chaos erupted again. One of the officers, aiming at the sky, yelled, "This is an active situation. We need to clear the area." It was all happening too fast. Sarah felt the walls closing in. The murmur of the crowd morphed into shrill cries that echoed in her ears. And then, like a bolt from the blue, an explosion tore through her reality. The courtroom trembled violently, sending debris raining down. With a desperate gasp, Sarah turned back to James, but he had vanished, lost in the folds of confusion. Panic tightened around her heart, and instinct kicked in. She had to protect herself and those she loved. "Get out! Get out now!" she screamed, her voice rising above the chaos, driving everyone to the exits. Pushing through the throng, her breath came fast, each inhale filled with dust and fear. Just as she reached the door, she caught one last glimpse of Mia, expression unreadable, her gun lowered, pointing not at Sarah, but at her own heart. In that instant, uncertainty washed over Sarah. Where was the truth hidden? Who was playing which side? Everything felt like a piece of a puzzle flung across the room, each person a fragment that didn't quite fit. As the smoke swirled around her, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest. It was the weight of betrayal that choked her. The truth about James, Liam, and Mia twisted like a knife inside her. But as she ran into the light of the outside world, a shocking realization crashed against her. The real enemy was closer than she thought. And just as hope sparked a flicker of strength in her heart, she saw someone standing alone at the side. The puppet master. The smoke was beginning to clear, but the tension hung heavy in the air. Sarah felt her heart pounding in her chest, each beat echoing like a drum in her ears. Liam, Jake, Mia, and even the ghost of her father, everyone's fates tangled in a web of lies and confusion. "Run!" Jake shouted, struggling to get to his feet, clutching his leg. Panic surged through Sarah. She felt the lump in her throat. She couldn't leave him like this. Not again. "I can't just leave you." But then, there he was. The dark figure from her nightmares, creeping closer, eyes glinting with malice. "You're all just pieces in my game, Sarah. Did you really think you could escape your fate?" "No!" Sarah yelled, fighting against the fear tightening around her. Her mind raced, trying to find a way out. The heaviness of betrayal pressed down on her like a weight. She felt as if she was drowning, gasping for air while the world around her exploded in chaos. Liam's voice trembled as he shouted, "They've planted lies in every corner. It's all set up. We're being hunted." I know! Sarah felt the tightness in her chest shift to anger. "But who can we trust?" Mia stepped forward, gun still in her hand, shaking slightly but resolute. "There's more at play here. I was trying to protect you." "It's too late to protect me," Sarah screamed back, frustration bubbling over. "Just tell me the truth." Another gunshot rang through the air. A body hit the ground, and Sarah froze. It wasn't Jake, but the sound of the shot echoed, filling the room with a heavy dread. Time seemed to warp as she turned, seeing the chaos blooming around her. "Get her!" the masked figure commanded. Suddenly, the courtroom felt like a cage closing in. Shadows flickered. People rushed like currents of chaos. Sarah's breath quickened. She spotted a glint of hope in the distance. The exit, the way out. "Jake, we have to go." She grabbed his arm, her heart racing. But he hesitated, glancing back at Liam and Mia. "Sarah, just go," he shouted, and with a final surge of bravery, she pulled him toward the door. The crowd swelled around them, feet pounding, chaos screaming into the night. Just as they reached the threshold, the shadowy figure lunged. Sarah ducked, dragging Jake with her. But at that moment, she looked back and saw Mia, caught in the crossfire of the dark threads woven around them. "No!" Sarah shouted. An explosion resonated, collapsing part of the entrance. Debris rained down. The world turned upside down. "Mia!" Sarah screamed, but there was no answer. The dust settled in the air like a heavy fog around them. "We can't stay here!" Jake shouted, urgency snapping at her heels. "We have to move! What about? There's no time!" With the weight of sorrow heavy on her, Sarah pushed forward. The exit loomed closer, and they barreled through just as the chaos erupted into full carnage behind them. They stumbled into the cool night air. Stunned and breathless, they had escaped. But the question remained, what now? As they caught their breath, Sarah glanced back at the chaos they had left behind. Would there be ramifications? Or were there still shadows lurking just beyond their reach? "Are you okay?" Jake asked, his voice gentle amidst the turmoil. "I don't know," she murmured, looking out at the horizon. "But I won't let them take control of my life anymore. I'll fight for everything." The world was still a mess, and the shadows were still there. But for the first time, she felt a spark of hope ignite within her. If she was going to win this battle, she had to gather her strength, confront the lies, and follow her own truth. Sarah turned to Jake, determination flooding her veins. "Let's go! We have work to do." As they moved forward, silhouettes of their past lingered in her mind. Shadows she'd have to face down the line. What lay ahead remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. This fight was just beginning. And you need to subscribe now! Don't miss all the exclusive stories coming up next. Hands up if you're a true fan. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these thrilling tales alive. Flood the comment section with your reactions, thoughts, and theories about what just happened. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends. who need to know how it all ended. This is the moment to show your support. Let's keep this community growing strong.